Hello, friends, and welcome to the final episode of Season 10. I'm Bill Culhane, your host, and Keith Glatz is our guest today. We'll talk more with Keith in a moment, but a few things that I want to just mention to our audience. First of all, thank you so much to everybody for tuning in, to watching, to sending the emails, sending the notes. They're so appreciated as we get ready to kind of go on a break over the holidays, getting ready for season 11. As most of you know, earlier this week, Brooke Smith from Murray City, Utah, was awarded with the inaugural David and Beverly Nash Leadership Award. We couldn't be more thrilled. Those of you who watched our most recent episode where we actually released the presentation, you saw the excitement on Brooke's face. Of course, we had David Nash on to share his words about Brooke's accomplishment, about leadership, those kinds of things. And those of you who have been with us in season 10, you understand that in season 10, we've celebrated leadership and all the excellence that's going on in public procurement. As a matter of fact, that's one reason, we have Keith Glatz on to join us in a moment. So I talked about Brooke. Keith Glatz, those of you who were on the audio version of the podcast, you heard me go through his bio in a little bit more detail a little bit earlier. We'll talk about Keith's career. We'll talk about this idea of leadership. But you might see in the background there over Keith's left shoulder, Keith was a awardee, a winner of the prestigious Albert H. Hall Memorial Award. That was in 2024. Keith's more complete bio is in the description of the episode. If you look down, those of you on YouTube checking out this video right now. So Keith, prestigious career, so many accomplishments. The Albert H. Hall Award is an incredible accomplishment. Welcome to the show. We appreciate you sharing some time with us today.
Well, thank you, Bill. And before I start, I want to acknowledge that you made a great choice with Brooke Smith. She's an emerging leader, and she has really come a long way quickly. And I'm proud of her, and that was a great choice on your part.
Yeah, well, it wasn't just myself. The selection committee, and it was really, and those of you who saw the episode where we had the presentation, it was a who's who of people throughout public sector procurement. And yeah, we are very proud. There were so many great nominees, and the selection committee it was a difficult task, but they certainly did a great job. And I mentioned that the Hall Award, as we look at Keith there, the Hall Award is over his left shoulder. But full disclosure, take our audience behind the curtain. Before we launched recording of this episode, Keith and I talked about our ties to the University of Illinois. They're in Champaign,
Urbana-Champaign, as they say.
That's right, exactly. And so it's interesting as I do this show, as I've been in broadcasting for over 30 years now, when I meet people and you start the conversation and you find out the connections. Well, you see in Keith's bio there, he's a proud graduate of the University of Illinois, and I just missed him by about 4 years. Many of you know I was in the Air Force, and my first permanent duty assignment was in Rantoul, Illinois at Chanute Air Force Base. But as a side gig, a part-time kind of deal, more fun than work, I worked for the University of Illinois athletics programs, specifically football. And so anyway, I didn't know what a snowdrift was, Keith, until I lived in Rantoul.
Yes, that's one reason we moved to Florida when we get older.
Yeah, no doubt. And I sit here in Austin, Texas, where it's going to be a high of 65 today. The high today in Champaign is 37 degrees.
Ooh.
Yeah,
they're gonna need their towel. They're gonna need their little blankets then. Fair image. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, that was quite a time. I enjoyed my time in Illinois, and then of course, again, longtime listeners, viewers know that Uncle Sam sent me across the pond for a while. Got to spend some time over in the UK, but Illinois, great time. So let's kind of roll up our sleeves, Keith, and get to kind of the heart of the matter. First of all, talk about what it meant to you to receive the Albert H. Hall Memorial Award. Tremendous accomplishment. Everybody watching our conversation understands what that means.
Well, there's nothing, Bill, nothing at all like it. To receive the ultimate recognition of your peers in public procurement was absolutely the thrill of a lifetime. Being able to be now, when you win the award, you not only win the award, you're accorded the distinction of becoming a fellow of NIGP. So you get a few new initials, FNIGP. And knowing that since 1945, there are probably only about 40 or so of those people since the award was developed, that is, that have ever won it. And it's a very elite field to be in. And I have just sort of almost an emotional roller coaster, you might say, to know that your colleagues feel that your career was worthy of this great honor.
Yeah, they certainly do not give that award away. That absolutely goes without saying. So we salute you, Keith. Again, many congratulations on that award. So what did it take, when you look back at your career's journey and the things that you were involved in, the contributions that you made? I know this is a very open-ended question. I apologize for that, but talk about your career journey and how you ended up on that stage getting that award.
Well, Bill, it is about the journey and not the destination. I had no idea when I started off my career as a novice buyer one at the state of Illinois back in 1978 that I'd end up on that stage. Actually, when I started, I didn't even know there was such a stage, to be honest. But I started out right out of the University of Illinois, and back then nobody was intentional about public procurement. We almost all fell into public procurement by accident. My story, it goes to the lunchroom of the state office building called the Stratton office building in Springfield, where the then state purchasing agent happened to be having lunch with an uncle of mine who was an upper echelon manager in one of the other departments. And he was bemoaning, the state purchasing agent was bemoaning the fact that his food buyer was getting ready to go out on maternity leave, and he didn't know what he was going to do. And my uncle mentioned, said, I've got a nephew just graduated from the University of Illinois who worked with his family in their family food business, and he knows the difference between a number 10 and a number 303 can. So they called me up. I fell into it. Been in 46 years until this last November when I just retired. And it's been a tremendous journey. What I've really enjoyed in this journey is being able to give back to the profession. You take for the first few years, you learn all the requirements and best practices and techniques, and then it's time to give back. And that's probably the best part of the journey.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, that even goes beyond public sector procurement, right? This idea of helping to lift up others is so important, because at some point we all do leave, right? We, for whatever reason, we retire, move on to something else. And certainly we want to leave behind better than when we arrived. It's kind of a mantra I know that we had in the Air Force, the time that I spent in the military, but even as I've gone into my professional career, beyond that is leave it better than you found it. So let me ask you this. As you look back at your career, 46 years, Do you have, and one of the reasons I ask is mentorship is actually a criteria of our David and Beverly Nash Leadership Award. Can you recall a mentor or a couple of mentors of yours who helped to lift you up and help you along your career journey?
I can. I have a little photo box on my desk here in my office study. And I have a picture in that photo box. I call it respect. And it was when I was leaving the state of Illinois back in 1994. Several people came to wish me well. And in the picture was my very first supervisor at the state. His name was Bob Hendrickson. The then state purchasing agent, his name was, who was there when I started, his name was Jimmy North. And the besides myself, the fourth person in the picture was my father. And those three individuals taught me about the profession, taught me best practices, taught me ethics, taught me what you needed to do to be an ethical person with integrity. And of course, my father taught me everything I needed to know about life. And so those were just some of my mentors. And even people that don't have the experience you have, in some ways, are always mentors to you because you learn from everybody. Whenever I'd go out and teach a course for NIGP, I learned more, I always felt, than some of the students might have learned because they shared their experiences. And experience is the best teacher.
Yeah, and maybe what you suggested a moment ago about learning from others. I think back to that, what is said by many that there's a reason God gave us two ears, two eyes, and only one mouth. Sometimes you can learn just by watching and hearing others. And I heard a moment ago, Keith, you used the word ethical. And longtime listeners and viewers of this show know that from time to time, we'll have guests come on the show and talk specifically about the idea of ethics and transparency in public procurement. Our very own David Nash. David has been a guest on the show, sitting in the chair you're sitting in, not literally, but figuratively. So this idea about ethical actions, behavior, and transparency in public procurement, what can you share on that concept?
Well, they always say about ethics, when you're alone, ethics is what you do when nobody's watching. But in the public procurement profession, there's a little bit of a different twist to that. Ethics is letting everybody watch. And what I mean by that is you're an example to others. And the story has to do with the 1984 Rose Bowl. And we've talked about that already, where Illinois traveled to Pasadena to get trounced by the UCLA Bruins 45-9.
Rick Neuheisel, the quarterback for UCLA. I remember it. It's a nightmare.
I seem to remember that the folks at Cal Polytech had messed with the scoreboard that year. But anyway, that year, the state's probably most influential vendor, and I'm not going to mention their name, invited the governor to go to the Rose Bowl on their corporate jet. And a few people were invited. I was actually invited, turned it down, of course. But people found out what happened, and the governor was put on the hot seat. And the gentleman who was the director of our department was one of the individuals who was invited, and he turned it down. And the press brought up the fact that this particular individual had said no. And the governor, Jim Thompson was his name at the time, made the comment, is I'm glad to know there's somebody in my administration that has some sense. And the idea was, by his example, our director showed that ethics should be at the forefront of everything we do, and was able to teach the governor a lesson about things in the public procurement sector. And when you are the face of ethics, then you're going to sleep easier at night, and your entity is going to reap those rewards as well.
Yeah, and when I think, and those are great points, Keith, and thank you for sharing that story. But when you think about the responsibility that folks in public procurement, public sector procurement, the responsibility that goes with the positions, the roles, the jobs, it's tremendous. And I understand there can be pressures. I think we all acknowledge that. But anyway, yeah, ethics has to be at the very fabric of what any of us do. And certainly something that I think the message can't be repeated enough, too much. I'll share a quick story with you, the audience, as well, of course. I was at NPI in Denver. What was that? A few months ago. And one of the breakout sessions, it was DOJ investigators, two gentlemen who were there to discuss about, fraud and different examples. And naively, I walked into that room, Keith. True story. I've shared it with others. I walked in that room expecting for these two DOJ investigators to talk about particular cases from years ago, what used to be. And that wasn't the case. I mean, they were talking about what was going on in the here and now in terms of cases that they were actively working. They were obviously encouraging all of us in the room. And, I'm there as a vendor, but they're encouraging the folks there in public procurement to, be mindful that there are enticements out there and opportunities to get in trouble, opportunities to get on the news in ways that nobody wants to be on the news.
That's absolutely right. We always tell our entities when they complain about the rigors that we have to go through to comply with best practices, that one of the things we're trying to do is keeping you, our client, out of jail.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, Keith, again, throughout season 10, we've talked about leadership, had a number of guests come on who are either in leadership roles or talked about leadership. For our audience members out there, maybe those who are new to leadership positions in public procurement, whether it be at the municipal level, whether it be at the county level, state level, what have you, does not matter. What kind of advice would you like to share with those people as they embark on careers in leadership positions in public sector procurement?
Well, leadership is best demonstrated when you find your passion. Passion is the flame that ignites leadership in a person, and ethics is part of it. Caring about others is part of it, and wanting to see the best outcome for the individuals and the group that you're leading is another component that's very important in the area of leadership. So I always say, find your passion, communicate your passion, and live your passion.
Very good. I appreciate that, Keith. And I go back to, again, my time in the Air Force, but one of the things that we talked about when it comes to leadership is the idea, and you kind of touched upon it a moment ago, and that is, if you take care of your people, they'll take care of the mission.
That's absolutely right. Respect for the individuals whom you're leading is absolutely paramount. Empathy for those who are going to be the recipients of the outcome, that's paramount as well.
Exactly. Well, Keith, on behalf of our audience, everybody here at the Big Bid Theory, our production team, powered by Bid Prime and Beacon Bid, I know they also appreciate you carving some time out of your schedule. I do want to close with this, just a couple of reminders for our audience, and that is now we go on break, right? We go on sabbatical. We plan to pick up season 11 approximately April 1st. We're going to be redoing the website. This is the final episode. It just occurred to me, this is the final episode in this studio. We will be moving into a new studio for season 11 as well. So one thing we'll do, including this episode, is we'll continue to roll out episodes from season 10 as we're on break. So maybe if you didn't get a chance to see a particular episode earlier this year, you'll get an opportunity in the next few months as well. So Keith, again, thank you so much. Again, congratulations on the Albert H. Hall Award. Tip of the cap to you, kind sir. And I hope that you and yours have a very happy and safe holidays.
And I wish the same for you and your audience as well, Bill.